Now Zelda. That is a link to the past, by the way. Hola community, how are you? Welcome to another episode of Blender Today Live, our weekly gathering, a weekly meeting to see and catch up on what is new in Blender as of today, since last week when we last met. Last time I said I didn't have too many things, and this week I may also not have too many things, but actually there are even new features to look at in areas that we don't usually see, such as animation, rigging, usability, user interface, and of course, as always, geometry nodes, some Python news, and a little bit of everything. How's everybody doing? Super happy to be I don't know, I am here every week, but I just got back from the studio, from the Blender HQ, and it's so nice to go back there. We had a meeting about geometry nodes, something that is still not implemented, some ideas that needed to be discussed with Ton, and it's just so cool. And there is even somebody new that Paul was a new 3D artist at the studio, which I didn't even know. The team is growing, but because of this situation, it's not as the same. But that's why we have the internets, and we have you at home watching, or wherever you are watching this, at work. You can pass it as work. If you use Blender for work, you can say, no, you see, I'm actually working here. I'm watching Blender Today because I need to know where is the software we're using going, right? What are crazy things the developers and the community are doing. So this show, as if it's a first time over here, this show is split in two parts. First, we see what is new in Blender, the features. And the second part is the questions, the Q&A, which we're going to be doing here on Blender.community or Blender.Today. The thread by Blender Defender, thank you for making it, already has 16 questions. So go hurry up and ask your question, or upvote, give a little heart to the questions that you want to be asked, to be answered the most, or try to be answered. Sometimes I don't have the answer, but I try to do my best. Actually 3 sections. Sometimes there are announcements. So if you're a developer, you can say there's start at 0. So the 0 section of the day is actually an announcement of Blender, the new LTS. Actually, if you go to blender.org/LTS, you're gonna find that the 2.83, yeah, I know it sounds ancient, right? 2.83. Blender Foundation is keeping its promise to update one release every year. There is one release that will be updated for 2 years. So last year was 2.83, which it's already in like halfway already, and is being updated 14 times. Well, 13 if you don't count 0, but 2.83.14 came out last week. The updates themselves, there is no like, you're not gonna it's of course more stable than in the past, but some of them are related to like building Blender. Some of them are this one I think is if you ran into this issue when you were trying to apply a mirror modifier that had bisect enabled, and that object also had a multi-res modifier, then there could be a crash and prevent to save the file. So now that has been fixed. But besides that, I mean after 14 releases, how much more stable do you want it? I think it's pretty safe to use this one. Later this month, actually in like less than 2 weeks, yeah, in 10 days more, next Wednesday or Thursday, maybe Thursday, the new Blender LTS will be released, 2.93 LTS. So yeah, isn't it crazy that we are actually having blenders that are updated for so long? And not only that, that you can also use any other blender from the past. So I always like to mention this. I don't know if you know of maybe a school that doesn't have the resources to update their computers, and they still have some computers with Windows XP and lower end machines that they should check out and download older versions of Blender. Even I would go as far as 2.49b if the computer can't handle 2.5. it's a great release. And Big Bug Bunny was made with that, and Elephant's Dream, and you know, it's not too bad. So okay, let's move on. Let's start with a bang. Usability. Why did I call usability? Well, because there are many improvements that are in this area today. There are some of them that improve features that already existed, but just making it easier to handle, to manage. So the first one in the list, let's start with the animation and the rigging afterwards. But first, animation. So if you're animating, you may know the pose sliding tool. So pose sliding, it's when you have a you have two poses, like in one frame, frame 10, frame 20, and you want to create a new key in frame 15 in the middle, and you want to control how much from one pose to the other. You could do it until you could always do it for many versions in Blender, but it was invisible, really. There was no, well, you could see the pose changing, but you didn't know exactly where you, like in the pose, in one pose A and pose B were you. So now there is a widget that is being used in the viewport, and you can see it in here. So when you use the tool, is now gonna be shown in the header. So the same way we show other kind of data in the header, that means, unfortunately, well, you can see here, it's this line over here. It's not the prettiest in the world. We still have to do some passes in terms of UI, in terms of making a bit more Blender like, but I think it's in the good direction. The fact that we have these kind of widgets now as a gizmo, it's kind of gizmo, I think it's a move in the right direction. For example, we still have to fix the issue in general in Blender when you transform, that it shouldn't remove the header. Right now, it's one of the things that annoys me the most in Blender, is that you just moved and the whole UI just flickers, and you see that in time lapses. It's like so annoying. Once this gets fixed, this also should be addressed and should be part of the UI. But it's in definitely a step in the right direction. You can see right now, well, this is the current status. This was before, so it was just shown here the value. So now at least you have a bit more control. You have snapping. It will also have precision mode, so you can move more precisely with shift or control to snap to a specific percentage. But yeah, super interesting to see Blender moving in that direction. And today the Sculpt/Paint team were discussing also to have something like this for some tools. For example, mesh filters. It should, when you apply a mesh filter, you have either no value, or like 0 to 1, or even more. It would be cool to have something like this. Maybe it shouldn't look the same, because you don't care about percentage, or like these indicators could only show on when you press Control to snapping, for example. So yeah, a lot of work still to be done, but it's always good to see actually this also by the community. It's not like a core developer went out of their way to do it. It's actually by Christoph Landerfield, which it also does animation. I didn't know also coded. I follow him on Twitter, so super cool. And look at the commitment, all the updates based on feedback by the developers. So yeah, I invite you to maybe make mockups of how this could look in a more Blender-ish way, whatever that means. The next improvement is actually on rigging. On the rigging side of things, this is a small step for man or human, and a big step for humanity or mankind. The custom bones, you know that? When you can just specify the shape of a bone with another object. Well, now you can also, sometimes that is limiting, because it depends on where the position of that object is, or the bone, and then you cannot really control it that much. You can change the scale or the position unless you change the original object. However, now there is a setting. There is a new setting here in the bone. Let me sweep to the other side. onto the other side, and you can see now that the custom shape panel, where you choose a custom object, now has settings for scale, offset, and rotation. This should be offset, rotation, scale, right? We usually do like location, rotation, scale. Maybe we should flip those too. But yeah, super neat to see this, because now you have to use less shapes and bones. You can use the exact same, like one square shaped mesh, and then make out of it you can make a cube or a cylinder, or more of sticks and planes and anything from that one option. So neat. And also another addition by the community, Yuki Shirakawa. Thank you. I've never seen a patch by you, by the way. Are you watching? Do you watch the streams? If so, thank you, and welcome to the committers, the family. Now your work in Blender is there forever, and it belongs to everyone. So okay. The next update, actually, I think we're in the good shape to change into geometry nodes. Yes, geometry nodes is a large part of the show lately. Like, well, since last year actually. What if we didn't have geometry nodes? We would probably be quite a. What will we be talking about? Okay. So I have a new node, I have a few new sockets, some new usability improvements, but first let's talk about the curve support. The last couple of weeks I talked about how geometry nodes is now supporting curves data much better. You can convert curve to mesh, but now and also I think last week I was showing the spreadsheet and I couldn't see any data, any kind of attribute related to the curves until now. So Hans actually implemented 2 built-in attributes for the time being, 3 actually. Well, position for the points, but now you can also control the tilt and the radius of a curve. So for example, let's see, so what is the radius? Well, the radius in a curve, it's when you control the here. It's what you do with Shift S. So if you do, for example, a circle, and then Shift S, it's the radius, the mean radius. So mean, English is funny sometimes, and the tilt. So cool. So now that is available in geometry nodes, which I could try and get. Do we have time today? I think we do have time. So if I do a curve to mesh and I have a curve, I can do a the curve object here, and then geometry, and then that out here. That's cool. So now we can actually see curve and the spline and the points, but I don't see. I see the position points, but should I see here the attributes of the curve or not, because it's built in? If I change the curve here, radius, would I see it, or am I even supposed to see it inside of the curve? Maybe no. Or did I compile? That is a good question. Let's see. This patch exposes the first spline control point attributes. The implementation incorporates the attributes into the virtual array, providing efficient methods to flatten the data into a contiguous array and to apply changes from a flattened array. This is only parts of the eventual goal, which includes changes to the attribute node separately for each spline to complete avoid copying. So far, tilt and radius are implemented. The 2 generic attributes common to all spline types are implemented. So I think, yeah, I also had problems. I hear Eric seeing the attributes. So if you are here, Hans, sometimes it's in the chat. It would be cool to see. I compiled this morning, and I think this update has been around for a few days. So I'm just compiling again, just in case. because just showing off. Wow, that was fast. And linking, and this step is taking longer than usual. Bam! I have a new Blender. That's so cool. And then, well, I'm not gonna try it right now, but this is that's so cool. Isn't it cool to compile Blender? I have a little script that runs, that is just called Bloop-date, that runs make update and all the compiling stuff. And there were some changes in geometry and grease pencil. Okay, let's move on. Ishwar, Pablo, are you a Blender developer? I am not a Blender developer. I make little patches on things that on the things that I know, which are very, very little. But I don't consider myself a developer. I like Python. I made my own add-ons. I have an add-on inside Blender. It's called Amaranth, which is a mix of tools all over the place, location everywhere. I made a few patches. This week I changed some colors. So I work in the user interface. So when I see typos or small little features, I try to do them. But I'm afraid if I start getting into development, I'm not smart enough, and second, I would completely drop every art related stuff, and I don't want to do that. When I start getting into something, I just drop everything else. It's not great. It's not great. You know what is great though? That there is a new node in town. Let's run the new node alert. Vector rotate node. So this is for attributes now. This used to be just for vectors. Now it's for attributes. So yeah, a node that you already know and you may have needed sometime. Attribute vector rotate by Charlie Jolie. Thank you so much. Then an improvement into an existing feature is that now the sample texture in geometry nodes, the sample texture, which allows you to have to use a texture as an attribute. Have you tried it already? It's crazy. You can have like a video to control the vertex groups in Blender. It's amazing. So the attribute sample texture has been improved. So now you can choose the texture from here. So you can have a texture socket where you can choose a texture from here and then connect and have more interoperability with in the future, not at the moment, with other type of nodes that affect texture. This wasn't even here before. You may recognize it looks strange. It's because it didn't exist before. And there's another socket that is coming to town, that it's the material socket, still not exposed anywhere in Blender, but it's inside, it's in the core. So we're gonna see it soon when we have some material workflow features inside geometry nodes that are coming soon-ish. You will be able to assign material, set, and yeah, all that you can do here in the material settings stuff, like assigning and all of that, selecting, that will be possible in geometry nodes. Spoiler alert, it's not here yet though. Let's see. So that was an improvement in the terms of usability, and another usability improvement in geometry nodes is that the sockets, in between sockets, when you create a connection in between two sockets that do not convert, that Blender cannot convert internally, such as if you have an object socket and you want to connect it with a geometry, then Blender cannot, it can't convert it. So the same here, this is the geometry on an attribute or string socket. It cannot be converted. So now the wire is red. So yay for usability. Thanks, Juanes Malfate. Juanes is now joining the meeting since part of the nodes module, more specifically geometry nodes, and it's so cool to have him and other members of the community now as part of the module of node stuff. And being on the meetings. It's so cool. Summit of Code today, actually at 8 p.m. exactly. Blender is gonna announce, the developer's gonna announce the projects that has been accepted for geometry nodes, and among others. Geometry node has, I think, well, I cannot say it's a spoiler, right? Okay, it has 2, but I'm not gonna say what. It's 2 projects in Summit of Code, but there are other areas of Blender that are also getting projects for this Summit of Code. Stay tuned for at 8 p.m. more or less. I think it's gonna be an email to the mailing list of BF committers, but I'm gonna talk about it in the next episode. And I think we're getting close to the. Let's talk about user interface first. User interface. Okay, another usability improvement. Have you ever run into the issue that some sliders, well, actually all sliders, you know, in Blender, all the sliders, like these ones, they are linear. So whatever, like if you move your mouse fast or slow or a little bit of whatever, it's always linear. So it's linear, so it's always the same. It's a constant change of the values. This has changed, and this is such a massive change. Actually, this I would consider this like a Blender 3 level of change, because now some sliders, only a few are in the interface, have the ability to be non-linear sliders. What does it mean? Well, it means that if you drag some of the sliders, there are a few options. For example, logarithmic scale or cubic scale. So, for example, say you here, let's see, remeshing. The remesh modifier has a setting to control the voxel size, right? If you are familiar with this, you may know that this is the voxel size when you have remeshing, right? This value, if you were like to sneeze while you were tweaking the setting, your computer will almost get caught on fire, because sometimes you can reach lower values and voxel size is too small and the computer doesn't like that, so it's not safe because the sliders were linear. If you moved it a little bit, it will already be too large for the entire values accepted for that slider. Not anymore. Now this slider is one of the first to get logarithmic tweaking of the value. So if you move it, what does it mean? It means that if you just tweak it slightly, it's gonna be changing in very low values, and then if you move it more, faster or towards the end, you're gonna see that it's changing in higher values. So if you move it slightly, you're gonna see that it goes in 0.01 is moving. So you can have super fine control, and if you combine it with shift, it's even better. Is it even possible? Yeah, shift is really like 0.001, and then if you move it a lot, then it goes fast. That is amazing. It's amazing. I never thought about having voxel size 1. It becomes a cube. That makes total sense. Voxel size 1 at the cube. Yes. So, amazing feature. This really changes, especially if you're working with a pen. It's gonna make your life much easier. Let's see which other sliders have been implemented. So there's a few options. So there is a free logarithmic sliders with a maximum range, logarithmic sliders with the correct value, free cubic, and then cubic sliders to control these values. Let's see which ones have been implemented already. One of them is the remesh voxel size, when I just mentioned. Sculpt, din topo, detail size. Again, this is a big one because din topo detail size can also screw up if you have a way too low size. you can screw it up. You can make your computer not so happy. And the other one is Boolean modifier overlap threshold in the fast type of Boolean, also logarithmic. So is life-changing, I would say, at least for your computer. And it's so cool to see this feature because it can open, you know, the door to so many new options. Like this doesn't have a user interface. Like you can't tell which sliders work and which ones don't with the new system. Right now it's just where it makes sense, but would be cool to have like a visual representation, or being able to have this in other sliders if you want to. For example, I don't know, like dragging up and then having like being able to move every 2 steps, 10 steps, 0.5 steps. Yeah, that would be actually cool, but it needs to be designed. We don't have a design for that yet. What else? Speaking of design, remember a few weeks ago I talked about the new options in the user interface window management, not Windows. The new setting where you can just right click on a header and then close that area or split it, and all these improvements that were done to the way Blender handles splitting. This is just awesome. I don't know if you were around when I mentioned it a few weeks ago, but I used it the other day, and you just don't have to worry about where to connect. Like if I want this viewport to go all the way down, you just drag it down, bam, and it cuts the other editor. That was impossible before. That was like, no, I cannot handle it, right? Let's go back memory lane. So then you can, yeah, it was just done. Oh, actually Blender will complain, areas don't share an edge. Yeah, thank you, very useful, Blender. But it used to just not being able to do it, and now Blender would actually be like, you know what, if you really want to, I'm gonna just chop that bottom editor in half for you. Beautiful, beautiful. So the same for here, then the same for the editor. If you want to make a new one, you should chop it and then you extend it. There was one corner case though that wasn't working, and was the for example, if you wanted to close the animation editor, then you wouldn't be able to. It wouldn't let you, or it would just bring, I think it would bring the properties editor down here. Now you can just right click and then close the animation editor, and it will move these two bottom to the bottom. And that is amazing. There's no undo though, so I still miss some kind of undo for this, but it shouldn't mess with the regular undo though. Oh, I love the T shortcut to change the interpolation of keyframes, but I hate it that it doesn't hide this sidebar. So yeah, let's yeah, improvement. Let's see which other corner cases. Well, let's see the one, and also give thanks to Harley for working on this, and also to Danielle for giving the feedbacks, and kudo. Yes, actually this was the case, that it was giving more priority to in this case to A than to these two editors, but now it actually works. This is what I just showed. Next improvement in okay, this one actually is just a heads up that last week I talked about Grease Pencil having a new setting where you can copy from one object to another. So if I add a new Grease Pencil object, and then another Grease Pencil object, that now you can, I don't know why I'm not using my pen, but yeah, using the mouse for this is just terrible. Okay, so yes, copy material to selected, copy all to selected. Last week this was called append, and there was a discussion about it because yeah, append is used mainly for libraries. It's not really for for this, for copy material to selected. We still, I don't know if we have it for, no, we have it here, copy material to selected, and here now is with the same name. It used to have a different name. Functionality is also different because this one I think it will append, whereas the other one will override, I think, or not. Very useful tooltip, Blender. Thank you. Same as the operator. The all copy all materials to selected is untouched, and the same for layers. The same layers should be the same. Copy layers to selected, copy layer. All layers to selected, copy. Why is it inverted? Because the menu is inverted. Yeah. Okay. Do you find that confusing? That menus in Blender change direction. Like here, viewport is always on the top, but here is also on the top. But if you have it separate there, in some cases, well, no, this one because we make it automatically, I think, but we don't make it automatically. But this one has all layers at the bottom and copy layer to select. But if you don't have enough room, Blender will invert it, and then you have, yeah, it's just a bit it's something you gotta learn. I think I'm done with what is new in Blender today, as in the main sections. Now I have a bit of a potpourri. The first one is the I cannot really show much in action. Like I cannot show it because I just read about it on the weekend, and it was committed on Saturday. People, don't work on weekends. XR controller support. This is huge. This has been a branch for a while, but I don't know how even to test it here live. I have a Quest, but I'm on Linux, so I don't know if I could even demo this. I saw this morning. I was like, how am I even gonna demo this? XR controller support. First step is there. If anybody made it work during the weekend, let me know if you have pictures or something else. There is no video. I cannot see, but I'm dying to see if it is actually working. And if it is working, then is it working everywhere? Is it like, how can I test it? So yeah, it caught me off guard. I was committed on the weekend. I will try and have something for next week, or at least know a little bit more, because this can be huge. This has been in a branch. It is already huge, but I don't know how far is it, because it's step 1 out of how many? Let's see what else. Okay, this is the potpourri section. I just saw the XR controller support added, and now the a add-on. I don't talk about add-ons much. This add-on, the 3D print add-on, now has a new option to export data layers like normals, UV, vertex color, and so on. It is disabled by default, but you can turn it on. So 3D printing can now export to this data, the 3D printing add-on. And last but not least, this is mainly if you work in if you have your own add-ons, if you make your own add-ons and or scripts in Blender that use the GPU module or BGL. Well, you may know that BGL is being deprecated. Soon it's gonna go away, but there is documentation to go with it. It's gonna change from BGL to GPU. Also, this module is a new module called GPU in Python. Exposes the capabilities defined in the GPU module in C. So yeah, just a heads up, but there is documentation to go with it. The docs Python API replaced the BGL module in the render engine example. So yeah, it will be discontinued. So in the latest or the current version of the API documentation for render engine, you will see the usage of the new GPU module. Yes, where here, GPU utilities, GPU shader module. Okay, that is all. What else? Do we talk about Cycles X? There was people actually right now. There is a question about Cycles X. OpenCL support's not there yet. I don't. know about that in particular. This is more about for the developers that are working on that in from other vendors. But in terms of Cycles X updates, let's share a few. This one in particular, it's interesting because it's related to one of the features that Blender Cycles doesn't have right now, which is resumable renders. So there is it's a bare bones, but the feature is called allow adding samples to a pixel. So when you have a pixel, any pixel or bunch of pixels in your render, and then you render, you add samples to it until it's noise free. And now you can actually add, well, internally Blender Cycles X can now add to existing sampling. So allows you, in other words, to resume sampling pixel after it skipped some of the schedule ties due to conversions. So yeah, pretty interesting. This is mainly for a more future updates, and there is also some experiment going on. This is an experiment with progressively lowering the noise in the viewport. So kind of a adaptive, this is like replacing viewport samples with smarting adaptive sampling. This for the viewport, also pretty exciting. I already mentioned about the new shadow catcher in Cycles X last week. And now there's also an option to approximate the shadow in a matte pass. Kind of the old behavior, but better, more accurate than in the previous implementation. So you can have the same results as in the past. So yeah, Cycles X is moving forward. I think we are done with the updates of the day. I already covered even the illegal section of features that are not yet in master, but there will be. Come on. Cycles X. I've Gleb Alexandrov tweeted the other day about people checking it. Twitter, I think, right? Gleb Alexandrov tweeted about Cycles X, like who was testing Cycles X, and all the comments seemed pretty positive about it. Like half the time render from 2 hours to 40 minutes, from 10 minutes to 2 minutes on a GTX 1060 graphics card. So yeah, super neat to see people doing this kind of stuff. All right, I think that's all for today. Let's move into the questions Q&A. I'm gonna refresh the page just to get the latest. I could have just reloaded the post, but okay, let's zoom in. Let's see, usability, artwork. No, Blender Defender, thank you for making the post. Maybe next time choose community as the so it doesn't mix the categories. I don't know if people even use categories. By the way, we've been working on the new BlenderToday BlenderToday, well, Blender community website. We added, Francesco added, and I just did the UI for it. For, you see the epic drag and drop. Drag, even with PNG transparency support. Drag and drop. It even tells you that the upload has been there. Next. This is right click select. Yes. Next level. I know this is not very exciting maybe for 99% of the people, but if it is exciting because people making for people not aware of it, this website Blender Community, we made it from scratch. We could have used another system, but it's not really tailored to what we want. So we made this website many years ago with Francesco, the both of us, and now we are working on the new version. And that, what I was just showing, that is right click select, which became one of the most, if not the most popular community in Blender Community, where people can submit proposals. And I don't know if you tried to submit a proposal, but it's very limiting in that you cannot upload pictures or videos, and now you can with drag and drop, and it just works, among other new features. So yeah, exciting new proposals I hope will come. All right, the first question of the day starts by Bitter Guard. Thanks for today's chat, Pablo. Thank you, Bitter. Not so bitter. Username doesn't check out. Okay, here's a usability question. Why is pose a separate mode? No other 3D software for animation requires switching modalities when character animating. Is there a reason behind this? When can't we pose in object mode by grabbing controllers on a rig? Well, because pose mode allows you to, for example, when you link a character from another from another file, and then in pose mode, you know, you have each mode controls tools, but also when you link a character, for example, you can limit the edit pose. You can have a good separation between the editing of an armature and the posing of an armature. Blender has that as separate concepts. I don't know how other softwares do it. For example, well, you probably know this already, but just to make it a bit more visual, that in like, for example, this I'm editing, right? I'm making new bones. I can make new constraints. I can do pretty much anything because I'm in edit mode. Then I know that I'm in pose mode and I can just create this pose, and then anytime I can just I know that if I go into edit mode, this is the original pose and this is the pose. I don't know how other softwares do it, but the having this separation between editing, posing, I think is very valuable, because you can not only have different tools, but also you can just clear the position and then go back to the original pose mode. Then also, you know that if you are in editing mode, you're not destroying, but yeah, it's a destructive mode that whatever change you do is permanent. However, in pose mode, I know I can just do whatever I want and then not worry about it. I don't know how in other softwares done. So yeah, I don't know if I can answer that properly because I don't know how other softwares do it. I just know that in other softwares you're like always accessing so you don't have object mode, or do you have object mode? I find it a bit confusing that you can just select the components and not have one way to select the entire object and do object operations in it. Also less prone to messing up your rigs if you have an object mode where you move the entire object, edit mode where you actually transform the edits, the roles of the bones, and then a pose mode that is completely separate. Yeah, I find it more clear in that way, and also less prone to breaking rigs. I heard that people complaining and in other 3D animation softwares, rigs are more prone to breaking because of that, because you can edit them without knowing. Drinking mate, it's not some kind of drug, it's just mate. We drink it in Latin America, South America. Sansuls, you know the difference between Latin and South America? The language. Hi Pablo, hope you are having a good day. It's amazing because I went to the studio, I saw people and I had fresh air, and now I'm doing a live stream with real people. I hope you're not all AI. Sansuls CG says, this is not a feature request or anything. Blender already has a lot, but the cell fracture add-on is just not that good. Well, to begin with, it's an add-on. It does the job, but it breaks the geometry like someone cut the geometry with a knife. It's simply not organic enough for the fracture modifier does a way better job and more organic job. Please, 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 Blender gods, put the fracture modifier in future versions of Blender. I've seen several people complaining about cell fracture on YouTube, and even Blender Bob complained about cell fracture not giving a believable result, so he had to use an old alpha version of Blender which was really buggy and unstable, and he had to use it to break geometry for a commercial he worked. Please, 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 for God's sake, implement fracture modifier in the future versions of Blender, and if it's not possible to implement in Blender, just bundle it as an add-on. Well, it's a modifier. I don't think we can have add-ons as modifier. It should be a built-in part of Blender. Fracture modifier should be a built-in part of Blender. The main issue I see is that it was developed by a community contributor that I don't know if he's if it's involved in it anymore. That's kind of the risk you have with those features, that if they don't make it inside Blender, then they're not maintained by the Blender code. The same way with an add-on. It's great to have add-ons, but if they are not inside Blender, they run the risk to become abandoned, or abandoned, mainly non-maintained. So that's every time. Maybe I say this too much, but it's like, people, just stop making some core features add-ons. Just make it inside of Blender as much as possible. Propose a patch, and then it's gonna stay there forever. Less maintenance, or the same maintenance, but at least you have a huge team to do it, and a team of bug reporters and bug triagers and developers to help with that. The fracture modifier, I don't know the current status of it, and I don't know if at this point, with geometry nodes being so like advanced and so pretty much in good shape to move into the next phase, which would be maybe collection modifiers, that could be a mix of this. Fracture modifier does sound like a mix of geometry nodes and also collection nodes. I think it should be thought in that way, I think. Okay, let's see. Grady says, hey Pablo, Blender is amazing, and let me heart this. Blender is amazing in so many ways, but right now baking in Blender is so slow, manual, and limited. Every texture has to be baked one by one. The UX is not intuitive, and the baking tools are lacking a lot of texture outputs for PBR workflow. There is a patch for Blender. Oof, just by looking at the number of the patch, 3,000. I think now we're in like 10,000, 11,000. I can tell that it's been around for a while. Baking system to overhaul baking and introduce bake passes to Blender. Great combination of objects, but has been collecting dust since 2008. Yes, 2008 was a breaking year for like make it or break it. Is that the saying? Because 2018 is when Blender 2.8 development started. So many add-ons were or patches had to either be updated or wouldn't even make it, or maybe it was just too unstable, the whole code base in Blender for a developer to invest time in it. But now Blender is much more, like the code base is way more stable, and we know the direction it's going, so maybe it's a good moment to revisit this patch. Let's see who made it. Lucas Dogner, hey, he's been around. He is around right now. He's working on Blender stuff nowadays. So maybe what is the latest comment? So August 2020, October, some removals, and then here. Please don't do thread bumping. Comments are for constructive feedback, not requests. That is true. But yeah, wait, I don't know what is the current status of this thing. We should ask Lucas. But this was again maybe on the chat. Yeah, according to the June Blender roadmap, June 2020, baking was meant to receive some love in 292, but it didn't happen, and it didn't make it into 293 either. So far, haven't seen any movement on the subject for 3.0, and it feels like it will miss out again. There's also no mention of baking in the 2021 Blender roadmap. I hope hope baking in Blender hasn't been forgotten. No, I know that it's not forgotten. It's the people that the Blender Studio even use it, and it's not in the agenda as far as I know for at least the core developers. I know some of them are working on Cycles X, some of them are working in the geometry node side of things. Yeah, I don't really have an answer. I just can say that we know that it's super important and it's a core feature for some workflows, especially game development, or to even speed up regular rendering but yeah, I don't know where is the status at the moment, because baking for Eevee, it's not existent, and for Cycles, with Cycles X now being in the focus, the attention, yeah, I wouldn't know right now. Maybe it's good to ask the Lucas Stockner about it again. He has 1 million patches, and some of them made it into Blender. Well, many of them made it into Blender, but I'm talking more recently. Let's see. Hi Pablo, thank you so much for the great show. Thank you for watching, Danny. Always looking forward to it. Do you happen to know when particle nodes will be continued? Can we hope this Mantaflow bug getting fixed anytime soon? Well, it's a bug, so it should be. Mantaflow's mock preview will not update till domain settings are changed. What is the status of this thing? October? Well, you can see it. Sebastian Vazquez is the main developer here, in working in 2.92. This bug will be a target for 2.93. Unfortunately, there is no time to get this ready for 2.92. This was in January. Instead of saying hopefully not forgotten, a better reply would be like, hi, I can confirm that this bug still happens in master branch Blender 3.0 blah 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 master, the number basically that you can get here in about Blender. This hash, you can say in the latest build from the buildbot hash still. It's much more, I know it's a kind of bumping of a thread, which is not great, but in this case it's not a feature request. This is a bug report, and you're just confirming that the bug still exists in the latest Blender stable or development. So yeah, instead of doing this, go with the actual bug report. Just giving more information. So Donnie, yeah, and particle nodes. Well, particle nodes itself now kind of the project itself became like simulation nodes, became geometry nodes. The next project, one of the many new next projects there in the horizon, is a collection node, and that kind of tackles it, at least the simulation side of things. So yeah, I don't think particle nodes as we know them in the past will come back soon. There is also hair nodes setup, or hair object, hair grooming. Yeah, those are the projects. I think it's just a restructure of the projects. Okay, 5 minutes past 6. Let's do 5 more questions. I'll try to answer quickly. So Texture says, what's the status of VR? With VR, the last I heard was we should see major improvements this year. Yes, what I just mentioned about the XR, the control support for VR. XR is the OpenXR is the library that Blender uses. It's OpenXR. It's the library by the same people that made OpenGL, OpenCL, and Vulkan. They made OpenXR. It's cross-platform, it's open source, and Blender is using it. Hey, they added the Blender logo. Cool. The big news is the support mainly of controllers so that should bring some editing capabilities. So yeah. Oh, actually, hey, I just saw that they added OpenXR controller. I should ask questions here more often. No, this was out of the blue, really. I didn't even know they were coming, especially on the weekend. Headcloth ouch 88 says, hey Pablo, a bit of a question about Animation 2020 and Rigify. Will Rigify be getting any substantial updates with Animation 2020? Well, 2020 became Animation 2022. Rigify is getting updates, and it's been getting updates lately for adding custom modules and such. But I don't know, any update in particular that you're looking forward to, like what's missing, or like what specific feature would you be missing for Rigify? Tomek. Hey Pablo, question about library overrides. Is it possible to use them within a single file? Let's say you have a blend file with an asset. You can then link this asset in another file. Yes. What I'm trying to do is this workflow in a single file in which I create a new scene, and in that empty scene do Shift A collection instance and then override. But the make library override option is grayed out. I'm wondering if it's a bug or maybe intended behavior. I think it is intended behavior, and in the future maybe with assets is that what you're looking for, because it's really the same. But yeah, no, for the time being this is working not in a single file. You need to link it. Reason for this, and I don't always see the benefit into splitting into multiple files, or on smaller projects I would like to work within a single file but have a couple of assets on dedicated scenes that I could work on separately, just like with link assets using link library overrides. When whole project is not that heavy, it's kind of switcher to switch scene than switch file. Then yeah, what you need is not the library overrides per se, it's just an asset browser, and yeah, just use assets. But it's not possible to answer the question at the moment. SciVFX says, hi again, here's another suggestion where the stylus UX would be a must-have feature. iPad Pro with M1 chip is available now, so it would be great after lockdown experience if we could grab the tablet and pen with Blender and launch ourselves onto the nature and pose for all artworks. There's already a beta M1 binary for macOS. Yeah, people have been asking for it. The people from, well, Apple is the one that should implement this. I don't think Blender developers should worry about it. The M1 build is not stable yet. It's not available yet. It's in the build bot. I don't know. I think people have been commenting positive about it, but like having an iPad app, it's just completely different, right? It's not only about the architecture but also the interaction. How do you even interact with it? It's like just tipping. Well, it's not too different from using a regular pen, but yeah, how do you deal with, I don't know. I mean, iPads don't even have, they are powerful, but they don't even have that much RAM. I think 6 gigs. So how would it even work? How does file system work on an iPad? Can you browse files? Yeah, I think you can in the last few iterations. iPad support should be easier with M1, but I think it's something the Apple people should do. Come on, they have the sources. And for Android, oof, I see that even more far in the distance. Is there any good Android tablet out there? Like, what is the iPad competitor? Because it sounds like iPad is just on top of everything, just by themselves. You don't see many announcements for Android tablets. I have an Android phone. I'm not an just saying, by the way, and the tablet too. No, not tablet. I used to have one. There used to be a Blender for Android. Blender 2.90, no, 2.60 something was for somebody made. But yeah, Galaxy tablets. Next question. Chris Dude says, Hey Pablo, hope you're doing well. I hope you too. I heard you mention that with Cycles X, many requested features, included like linking, have a better chance of getting added. Even before Cycles X comes out, that feature has more chances to get added. But yeah. But because of the new infrastructure for the whole code, it should be more features, including light linking, have a better chance. I have put together a proposal on right-click select for a possible implementation. Is there a chance it could be considered by the devs, or do you think they already have a plan at this point? Well, there is a task already. There is a patch going around. Okay, I know you mentioned a chat where I can reach out to the developers, but I wasn't able to find a place that seemed appropriate. Here's a proposal if you want to take a look at it. It's super detailed and comprehensive, so I know you can't look at the whole thing during the stream, but maybe you could give some initial impressions. Well, it's always nice to see a good use of right-click select, and in the future, we want to have this a bit better. And also, one feature that we are adding is to see who voted this. Did you know that if you mouse over, you can see the post rating? It's 94 positive in this case, so 94% of the people voted this. But you can't see who voted, positive or negative. This will be public in the new Blender community website, which I guess it can be controversial. Some people don't like to show that they voted, but you know, if you vote, people should see. If you didn't like people should see who voted. It's transparency, man. It's not an election. This is voting for a feature. And so some people even suggested that every vote should come with a comment. So if you can't say why you're voting or downvoting, then you shouldn't vote. I don't know about that, because then you're gonna have all the comments saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 until you get the minimum amount of characters. I don't know. People, oh no, public votes. Why? Visible to the poster or all people? I think everybody, right? Why not? It's like when you like something. Yeah, report spam is already there actually. Do I have? You know, I have a command that is called community in my computer. They just run, and then it runs tuk everything, and then it runs the whole website. Let's see. Blender. Community. Let's see if I have a thread. So let's see if I can pull it in here. So this is a thread in the new, and then you can report, and then you can choose copyright, inappropriate, or other. You can type, and then we're gonna get a notification, and then we can do something about it. And this should be available to admins or moderators. Like, this feature will be implemented, but it is implemented already, you can see. However, filter out spam comments. Yeah, but how do you tell spam from non-spam besides the white or black listing stuff? But yeah, it's super cool. Now you can also see in posts that have votes, and then who liked it, so you can see who liked the post. And before you couldn't. Well, liking is the same as upvoting now in the new system. So basically you can actually see who liked this or not, and the same for the rest. Okay, enough spoiler. I'm spoiling the whole website here. The next AI. Well, let's see. Possible implementation. Okay, so regarding this, actually, wow, you even made animated graphs. Well, this is okay. This is gonna take me a bit to read. However, thank you for making it, and we'll have a read later. But yeah, if you want to get involved more in the render module discussions, in the sidebar of developer.blender.org on the right, you're gonna find render and cycles as a module. You click there and you're gonna find the name of the room on blender.chat where you can discuss this room in Blender chat is meant for, you know, developers, module members, so keep the discussion not like don't go shouting like, oh, Blender shadow catcher sucks and blah blah blah. Just keep it civil. All right, I think it's way past time. Yeah, 1:07. Okay, I think I did 5 questions. Sorry if I didn't get to answer all of them. But yeah, oh, actually there is one about the usability, the pressure sensitive and pen optimized interface. This is similar to the log slider, so it's pretty close actually to what you mean. And I think this opens the possibilities. We should reach out to the developer that implemented the, is it somewhere here? Or yeah, we should implement, I know, custom bones. Yeah, here, Henrik Dick. Thank you, Henrik, for working on this. Maybe we can poke at him around on the internets and mention this proposal. That yeah, it's super cool. Pressure sensitivity and pen optimized elements. Okay, way over time. I'm moving into this. Oof, sorry for the burning. I tried to make this better by using a light in front of me. Actually, if I don't turn on the lamp, that's not that much of a difference. Okay, good. Could you please answer the last question that got a like? Yeah, this one or yours. Okay, last. I'm asking this question again because you didn't answer it last week. Sorry, Blender Defender. Hey Pablo, what do you think of the print nodes add-on? It's an add-on for making high quality screenshots of your node trees. Exactly what many, I don't know how many people like to make screenshots of the nodes. So I know it's important for for documentation and for teachers, for YouTubers, so it is important. What do you think of the print nodes add-on? I think it would be awesome. Blender already has some printing friendly theme. For example, the theme print friendly, which makes it very high contrast, and when you render this, when you send it to print, a screenshot of this, yeah, would be cool, super nice. Print nodes, this could even ship with Blender if someone is willing to maintain it. And also the second question, what do you think about people who make their own version of Blender.Today in their mother language? Do you think it's a good idea, or do you think that there might be problems with wrong infos because of some misunderstanding? No, the other way around. I've been asking and pushing people, maybe not enough, for everybody should make their own Blender.Today in their own language. We have it here in the sidebar. We have Blender Hoy, which is for Spanish, Blender Oggi for Italian, Blender Actu for French, and Blender for Greek. These are the communities that people have been asking. Blender Oggi for Portuguese. I wish people will make their own Blender.Todays. I myself, I'm doing it in Spanish. Actually, I mention this every week, but the Blender Spanish version of Blender Hoy, it's called Blender Hoy, and I already made a live stream event. I don't know, where is it? Well, okay, I made the live stream event. It should be somewhere here for Blender Hoy, and I really look forward for other people doing it. Maybe not on Mondays, so people can watch this live stream and then take this news and make their own version in their own language. That will be awesome. Please go ahead and do it. The reason I started Blender.Today actually is because I wanted to share the news in Spanish. So I started the Spanish version first, because even though a lot of people know English, most people are more comfortable with their own mother language. So yes, if you are watching this and you want to contribute to the Blender community, make your own Blender today. Make it something like this with this form. You already know the format. Just start with the news and maybe answer some. Well, the questions are a bit harder, but yeah, do it. Go make your own Blender today with your own language. People love that. Build communities. That's what Blender is. It's a big community. So build more communities. All right, time to wrap this up. Way over time. I hope you had fun. I did, and we should do it again next week. How about it? Next week is gonna be next week is the week of the release. Blender 2.93 LTS will come out next week already. So I will be quite busy this week preparing the release logs notes. We're gonna have a new features video like last time, hopefully an exciting reel with pumping music. Still working on that with Francesco. So yeah, exciting times because after that, once the release is over, it's the best time ever because it means all developers can just focus on the next release, Blender 3.0. Pretty exciting. All right, 5 4 3 2 1. If you're wearing headphones, get ready to get your ear holes filled with epic. That sounds so bad. Okay, thanks for tuning in. I will see you again next week, same place, same time, for another episode of Blender Today Live. Bye. Oh, actually, next week is Monday. Next week Monday is a holiday in the Netherlands. I don't know. Am I gonna do the live stream? Maybe it's gonna be maybe Tuesday. Sorry, if you already stopped watching this. Tuesday. Bye. Ciao.